Right. I mean, one of the things that I can't get over is how fingers are pointing everywhere. Fingers are pointing at the collapse of the secondary mortgage market. Fingers are pointing at the, increasing home ownership on the rise, or the exotic financial instruments. Fingers are being pointed everywhere, but yet again, this is government creating the problem and then wanting to fix the problem. And James, as I said before, this is like getting a hangover and waking up the next morning and chugging Jaeger to fix the problem. I can't fathom.
Well, that's right. I mean, if you're going to bail out homeowners who didn't have the income and stability to own expensive homes, those folks should not be living in expensive homes that they cannot afford. And ultimately, it seems to me we've got to let the housing markets fall to their actual equilibrium level, where really only the people who can really afford homes live in homes and everyone else can rent, frankly. I think the government did way too much to try to increase the home ownership rate, and we can see the consequences of that now. I mean, it's true that a lot of private sector actors made big mistakes too. There was a lot of fraud on Wall Street, but again, I think we ought to let the people who took the risks take the hit. The shareholders of the companies that were poorly managed, those are the people that should take the hit, not the taxpayers.
But isn't part of this isn't part of the housing crisis not just government's fault, but also the fault of a Republican Congress and a Democratic president that allowed the most far-reaching deregulation of the banking industry, allowing the banking industry to go into all sorts of sectors that it really had no business in going into, to make these sort of short-term Ponzi.
No, I don't agree with that at all. The biggest deregulation in banking over the last number of years was the Bleach-Lively bill of '99. I mean, we're allowing our financial institutions to do things that the financial institutions in other advanced countries like Canada have been able to do for many and many decades. I think people ought to take a look at Canada. Canada's always allowed cross-border branching for their banks. They allow their banks to get involved in insurance and securities trading and that sort of stuff. They have a very sound banking system today. It is our banking system that has crashed down here. So I don't think it's the deregulation. I think we ought to look very carefully at the regulations, but I don't think it's as simple as saying, we deregulated a lot, because there's a lot of other countries, and England is another one, that have more deregulated financial sectors than we do.
And James, if you say even that, say a lot of deregulation did happen, we could still, it's still going to be government's irresponsible monetary handling of the money flow and also interest rates just open the door to all of this also. So I don't see how you could say that that's one of that's one of the sub causes, but government again is the main cause. And as we saw, Barack Obama has this statement now. He said the other day, quote, "There is no disagreement that we need action by our government, a recovery plan that will help to jumpstart the economy." And he said this because, we do have this general feel, there's kind of this Keynesian comeback. But the Cato Institute, I noticed yesterday in the New York Times and numerous other publications, I think tomorrow in the Chicago Tribune, they took a full-page ad out that basically took a bunch of economists around the country who signed this petition that says, "With all due respect, Mr. President, that is not true." And basically it puts forward the let's do nothing policy. But at the same time, I wonder, when you're looking at tax cuts that aren't going to be effective and you're looking at government spending that's not going to be effective, how, though, would you recommend boosting? Is there anything that can be done to boost private investment? Is that's the key to getting kind of consumption going again, whether it's investment tax credits, maybe, would you even recommend certain, credits for research and development, things like that? Is there anything the government can do here?
I think that the policymakers ought to focus on long-term reforms that may help in the short run. I think economists know a lot more about how to generate long-run growth through tax reform or educational reform than they know about manipulating the short-run economy. I think the number one problem with our tax system is our corporate tax rate. It's the second highest in the world. It is higher than Britain and France and Germany and Canada. We need to lower it. Again, there's no reason for automobile companies to be located in this country anymore when they can locate in lower tax China or lower tax Mexico and ship the cars here. So I think that's a gigantic problem with our tax code that needs to be addressed.
Wouldn't you also say, though, that if we do lower the tax rate, that should be coupled with a lowering in the payroll tax rate or increasing the earned income tax credit to make sure that working people also have a bit of a tax cut during this recession?
I don't mind. Lowering payroll taxes, if you do it in the right way, is fine with me. The focus should be on lowering the marginal rates, which is the rate that affects economic activity. So, right now we have a 15% payroll tax in this country on every worker. I'd favor lowering that to say 14%, rather than just giving people sort of a lump sum rebate or credit or something like that, because that doesn't change their behavior. It does not encourage companies to hire more workers if you're just giving a lump sum payroll tax credit. But if you cut the payroll tax rate for companies, that would be an encouragement to hire more workers.
We have over $1 trillion now being thrown around, mishandled by the government. And what do you see? I mean, now that the stimulus package has gone through, how's the economy? What do you think is going to pan out over the next few years? Because Obama has not, as you said, put forth any long-term plans, whether he's going to go with more of an inflationary policy or cut spending. But just with the stimulus package as it is, what do you see coming about from this?
It's a good question. There's been very little thought, frankly, about on long-term growth and competitiveness. For example, in the Obama campaign documents, there's very little focus about long-term growth. I mean, Obama has a lot of smart economists now on board with him on the stimulus package. I think they're off on the wrong foot here. But I do hold out some hope that some of his smart PhD economists he's got up there in the Council of Economic Advisors and in the Treasury Department elsewhere will help him do some real long-term fiscal reforms that are good for American competitiveness.
Mr. Edwards, thank you so much for your time.
You steady dressing